Eiffel Tower is a wrought iron lattice in Paris, named after the engineer Gustave Eiffel, whose captain designed and built the tower. It was constructed from 1887 to 1889. This tower was built to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution and is the most visited paid monument in the world. To tell the truth, it's hard to think of Paris without immediately thinking of the Eiffel Tower. The iconic structure has become one of the most recognizable landmarks in the world. It has become synonymous with Paris itself and continues to draw millions of tourists from all over the world to the city. But it was initially criticized by the great artists and architects at that time, who passionately and publicly opposed its construction. And if a vocal group of Parisians had that way, the beloved monument would have been torn down immediately after the festivities were over. Some people called it a truly tragic street lamp, a mast of iron gymnasium apparatus, incomplete, confused, and deformed, a hideous column with railings. Some said it looked like a hideous factory chimney, which was going to be 1,000 feet tall, way taller than anything else in Paris, and it would be there for 20 years. People also feared it might collapse because railroads bridges had collapsed. Led by Charles Garnier, the architect behind the famed Grand Palace Garnier, hundreds of artists, mostly painters, poets, and writers, signed a public petition protest to the Eiffel Tower for the termination of the project. But Gustave Eiffel saw it differently. He believed that his design, if carried out successfully, would be a monumental feat for the society. He asserted that if one were to dismiss the tower, one might just easily dismiss the ancient pyramids of Giza, since they were only virtual mounds of dirt. We are not simply the country of entertainers, but also of engineers and builders called from across the world to build bridges, viaducts, stations, and major monuments of the modern industry. The Eiffel Tower deserves to be treated with consideration. To him, the tower was a symbol of modern century. He hoped that the structure would also prove useful for the work of meteorologists and cartographers, given its tremendous height. Fortunately for him, the French government thought the same way, and construction of the Eiffel Tower began in earnest in January 1987. But as the tower rose up, people began to change their minds. By the time the tower was done, most of these people with all these terrible things to say had really changed their minds. It became one of the most famous things in the world before it was even done. It took them 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days of construction. The construction was completed on March 31st, 1889, just in time for the World's Fair. Despite initial protests, the impressive landmark that was once described as monstrosity slowly became France's most celebrated symbol. The Eiffel Tower eventually lost its title as the world's tallest structure after the Chrysler Building was erected in New York in May 1930. Yet well over a century since its completion, the landmark remains the greatest emblem of Parisians' elegance, and it continues to attract about 7 million visitors every year. And if you pay attention, almost every day you will see an Eiffel Tower somewhere. In an ad, in an article, or in a piece of clothing, or in a Valentine card somewhere. What it's always conveying is glamour, modernity, romance, which is pretty amazing provided where it comes from. This is a building built in 1989, but it has never lost its power. It speaks a lot.